is going on, guys? Welcome back for another motovlog adventure. We're back on the Triumph again today, but I did change the Raptor's front tires. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on my Raptor 700 I've been running street tires on the back and dirt tires on the front, but I did just switch my front tires over to my street tires on the quad, so I did that today. But anyways, today I'm going to be going over a pretty highly requested topic I've gotten. And when I say highly requested, I mean no one. I'm going to be going over how to drive a motorcycle. Oh yeah, got the head nod. Anyway, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I've kind of came up with 8 topics or best practices that revolve around riding a motorcycle. And I'm just going to kind of go ahead and address each one as I list them. So the first topic or kind of concept I have for you guys, and I know I probably sound like a broken record when I say this one, is the motorcycle safety training course. But there's a good reason why I have it as my first point. And best practice when riding a motorcycle is because I personally learned a lot from the course. And from what I remember, it's a really good environment. Everyone there is, you know, a noob. They don't know anything really about riding motorcycles usually. And so it's a really good environment just to, you know, figure out what's not really a good thing to do on a motorcycle, how to, you know, shift, how to turn. You know, that might seem like stupid common knowledge, but a lot of people have no idea the proper way to do things on a motorcycle. And so I think the best tip I could give to any new rider or someone who's trying to learn how to ride a motorcycle is take the course that teaches you how to do it. The course that I took was really comprehensive, and they really had everything in there, including my second point, which was your pre-ride check. Even before you start riding the motorcycle, you need to do a pre-ride check. The first thing you always want to do before you start riding your bike for the day is check your tires and check your chain. That stuff can really bite you in the butt if it's not maintained properly and you have bald tires. If you have a tire blowout on a motorcycle, it's almost certainly spells disaster. And a lot of people might overlook their chain and sprockets, but if your chain ever binds up or your chain snaps and gets wrapped around your wheel or something, that'll probably lock up your rear wheel. And they're nice, they're nice guys. That'll probably lock up your rear wheel, and you'll most likely crash your bike because of that. So doing a 30-second just quick pre-ride check, just check your tires, check your chain, sprockets, you know, that stuff. Check your throttle cable, make sure it's nice and has full range of motion. That stuff is very important before you ever start your bike. Crap. And according to like Murphy's Law, usually the time that you don't do those pre-ride checks is always the time that it bites you in the ass. So it's just a good habit to get into, just to do those checks every time before you ride. The third thing I'm going to cover about how to ride a motorcycle is the controls. Obviously, before you even start the bike, you're probably going to want to learn what everything does and where everything's at on the motorcycle. So unlike a car, every limb of your body is required to drive a motorcycle. Each one of your hands has a different function, as well as each one of your legs has a different function. So let's start out with our left hand first. One of the most important controls on a motorcycle, it's not any more important than the other ones, but one of the most frequently used controls on a bike is going to be the clutch. Oh my gosh, I can't find neutral. There it is. So your left hand controls the clutch, and as well as, you know, your high beams and blinkers, whatever. Those aren't too important. But your left hand is going to control the clutch. The clutch is what controls the engagement of power from your engine to your rear wheel, which we'll go over in a little bit more in depth. Oh my god, are you going to turn your blinker off? Probably not? Okay. Oh, you're going to switch lanes? Okay. And your engine's power is basically determined by your throttle position, which is done by your right hand, as well as your front brake is controlled by your right hand. What gear the bike is in is determined by your left foot, which moves your shifter either up or down, and your right foot controls the rear brake. So the fourth thing we're going to be going over is how to start the bike and how to get the bike in neutral. So unlike an automatic car or something like that, a motorcycle has gears, and it has a gear called neutral, which means you can have the clutch out and the bike will not move if the engine's on. And most things will have a neutral light, which is right up here on my dash. the top light here, and that'll turn green when the bike is in neutral. In almost every gearbox on a motorcycle, neutral is in between first gear and second gear. So I'm gonna wait for a red light. I'm sure I'll probably get one here soon, and I'll show you guys how to find neutral. All right, so we got a red light. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna shift down into first gear. So I don't know if you guys can see my gear indicator right here. We're in second, we're gonna shift down into first, we're in first, and then we're gonna shift up a half a click. Not into second, but up a half click. And just like that, we're in neutral. We're gonna shift back down into first because the light turned. But so as you guys saw, neutral is in between first gear and second gear. It's kind of a weird concept, but you get used to it after a while and it's pretty easy to find. So I mentioned the clutch earlier, and I'm going to touch more on that as my fifth topic here. You can kind of think of the clutch as kind of like a switch which controls your engine's power to your rear wheel. So if you have the clutch pulled in, you can twist the throttle all you want and the bike goes nowhere. And that's why there's a neutral gear on a motorcycle, is so you can have you know, your engine on and your bike not moving. So a lot of learning how to ride a motorcycle is learning how to use a clutch properly. And every motorcycle's clutch will probably feel different, but the concepts and fundamentals stay the same. So I'm going to go over how to properly use the clutch and control your motorcycle. So one of the most important things to note about using the clutch and having a motorcycle with a clutch is that when you come to a stop or you need to come to a stop, you always have to pull that clutch in. The clutch is also the control which allows the motorcycle to start moving. You can't just twist the throttle and it'll go. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm going to give the motorcycle some RPMs and slowly let the clutch out. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that again. So I'm going to give the motorcycle some RPMs and slowly let that clutch out. Just like that. And one thing you always want to obviously make sure that you're doing when you start moving your motorcycle is make sure your bike is in first gear. If your bike is in first gear, let's say it's in like fourth gear, it's not going to want to move forward. It's probably will stall out on you. So the next thing I'm going to be going over is how to shift a motorcycle, which involves using a clutch every time. So there's pretty much one main rule that applies to shifting a motorcycle, and that is just remember to pull your clutch in every time you switch a gear. So shifting your motorcycle involves 3 of your limbs doing 3 separate things basically at the same time, or in the correct sequence, I should say. Let's demonstrate how to shift into second from first. So we're going to start off in first gear, release that clutch slow. So we're just cruising in first gear right now. I want to shift into second, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll down the throttle, pulling that clutch. Shift into second, release the clutch, and roll back on the throttle. Let's shift into third. That's fourth gear. And it's just that simple. Once you get the hang of it, it'll go really fast. So the 7th thing I'm going to go over with you guys on how to ride a motorcycle is how to turn the bike. And you guys might think, oh, you just turn right to go right and left to go left, right? Well, it's actually the opposite, and I know that'll probably surprise most of you guys if you don't know how to ride a motorcycle already. So when the bike is just sitting there, obviously, if you turn the wheel right and push it, it'll go right. But when the bike is moving, it's a whole different story. So when your motorcycle is moving, what you're actually going to want to do is if you want to turn left, you're going to want to turn your wheel right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my wheel right, and my bike is going to tip to the left. If you just watch, it'll tip left, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you guys one more time. So before I demonstrate it again, I'm going to tell you guys the rule that goes along with turning the bike. And the rule is, whichever way you want to go, you push your handlebar. So let's just test that theory quick. If I want to go right, I'm going to push my handlebar right. And I go right. So let's try that one more time. So I'm going to change lanes and I'm going to go left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push my handlebars left. Push on my left side and I go left. Just like that. It's super counterintuitive, I know, but that's just the way the motorcycles work. There's one more rule that goes along with turning a motorcycle, and that is always look through the turn you're making. And what I mean by always look through your turn is just always follow the turn all the way through with your eyes. The worst thing you can do on a motorcycle is target fixate and lock onto something with your eyes while you're making a turn. That's one of the ways a lot of motorcyclists crash, is they lock onto something that they might crash into and they crash into it. The rule is wherever you're looking, your motorcycle will go. And if you guys watch any MotoGP or watch any riders that know how to ride a motorcycle, you'll always see them looking into the turn. You'll never see them looking straight ahead. That's just one of the main rules of riding a motorcycle, is always look through your turn. Let's see where this guy's going. Oh, he turned his sirens off. I guess, well, they either died or it wasn't an emergency. So guys, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and the last point I'm going to make, the 8th point I'm going to cover is two-up riding, or riding with a passenger. And all I got to say about it is don't do it. When you throw an extra passenger on your motorcycle, it throws off everything. It's so much harder to turn. The motorcycle feels like a completely different bike, especially on a sport bike when the second rider's weight is a lot higher than the bike's center of gravity. A lot of the sport bikes have a really high second seat, like the passenger seat's just so much higher than everything else. It throws the whole weight distribution off. Just makes the bike handle horribly. So the tip I have for you guys is, if you're a new rider and you don't have much experience, don't two-up ride. It's just not worth it. After you get some miles and riding time under your belt on your specific bike, then go for it. But until that, I would just highly recommend that you don't take a passenger if you're a new rider. So guys, I've covered everything I was going to cover on how to ride a motorcycle. If you have any questions or comments, you can definitely leave them below. And if you liked the video and enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.